The Galactic Empire prided itself on order. Its dominion stretched over countless systems, species, and cultures, all folded neatly under the iron fist of control. When humans became the newest addition to the Empire's list of subjugated species, they were cataloged as mildly dangerous, adaptable, but ultimately controllable. The analysts dismissed the warnings from the initial skirmishes. Humans had fought fiercely, but their technology lagged behind, and their homeworld defenses had fallen quickly. They were a deathworld species, but the Empire had crushed worse. To demonstrate power and eliminate the roots of resistance, the Empire began public executions. They selected human women accused of fostering rebellion, labeling them as insurgents. They chose to hang them, a deliberate act to invoke fear, to break the human spirit in the most humiliating, visible way. These executions were broadcast across the Empire's control channels, a warning to other human colonies that resistance meant death. The first execution drew little more than silence from the humans. The Empire expected riots, expected retaliations. Instead, the humans watched. No uprising followed. The Empire hanged a second woman. Again, nothing but quiet observation. Then a third. Then a fourth. With each hanging, the expectation of human retaliation grew, but none came. Alien analysts noted that humans were behaving contrary to all models of rebellion. They were calm, too calm. Across the Empire, administrators began to question the silence. Other species would have collapsed, would have begged for mercy, or exploded in futile violence. Humans did neither. They simply watched, memorizing the faces of their dead, saying nothing. Empire Command dismissed the concerns. They believed the humans were psychologically broken, that the executions were achieving their purpose. They continued the hangings, each more public than the last. 10 women executed, then 15. Still, no retaliation. The humans walked past the gallows, stared at the corpses, and kept moving. It unnerved even the enforcers who carried out the sentences. Some began to ask uncomfortable questions. Who were these women? Who were their parents? Imperial records were sparse, incomplete, as if someone had deliberately obscured their family lines. Internal memos surfaced, indicating that these women came from bloodlines of particular interest, families with classified designations. These designations were marked as restricted even for most Imperial intelligence divisions. The names of the executed women were cross-referenced, and what surfaced shook the quiet corners of the Empire. Their parents were missing, not deceased, not imprisoned, simply missing. Disappeared years ago under circumstances that defied explanation. Some were last seen on battlefields that no longer existed. Others vanished during Black Ops missions that were later erased from official logs. The enforcers continued the executions, believing the momentum of fear would eventually break the humans. They hanged the 19th woman on a broadcasted platform. Humanity watched in silence. When the 20th was prepared for execution, her lineage had been obscured even further. Her records had been deliberately wiped from human archives, as if someone had wanted her identity concealed even from her own people. The execution proceeded as the others had. The sentence was carried out. The image of her lifeless body was transmitted to all human colonies. Seconds after broadcast ended, an untraceable human transmission cut through every Imperial channel simultaneously. It was not a plea. It was not a demand. It was a statement delivered in a cold, emotionless voice. You have killed our children. Now you will meet their parents. The transmission terminated instantly. No trace. No origin. Empire communication experts scoured the networks, but there was no pathway, no source node. The message had simply appeared. Panic rippled through the lower ranks, but the upper command dismissed it as a bluff. They believed they had crushed human leadership, but the human silence deepened. Communications between human colonies became non-existent. Trading posts were abandoned overnight. Surveillance feeds showed humans packing supplies, moving as if under unified command, yet no orders were intercepted. No transmissions were decoded. The humans simply vanished from their known settlements. Imperial scouts reported the emergence of human ships that did not match any known registry. They bore no insignia, no identification, and operated in perfect silence. These ships began appearing near isolated outposts. Contact with those outposts was lost shortly after. The first to disappear was a weapons depot on the fringe of Imperial space. No alarms triggered. No distress signals sent. When reinforcement arrived, the outpost was gone, reduced to slag and dust. The attackers left no survivors, no prisoners, no evidence. Reports trickled in from the outer sectors. Human ships, faster than Imperial designs, striking without warning and vanishing before a response could be organized. They struck fuel convoys, communication relays, research stations. The pattern was cold, methodical, and devastatingly precise. Intelligence units traced the lineage of the executed women further. What they found was deeply classified and intentionally buried. The parents were not ordinary humans. They were survivors of ancient wars, Black Project engineers, tactical masterminds, and biological specialists who had simply disappeared decades ago. Files labeled them as assets too dangerous to detain, individuals who vanished into uncharted space without a trace. They were known as the Vanished Generation. Each executed woman was tied by blood to one of these ghosts. Each hanging had been a spark thrown onto an invisible fuse. The Empire realized too late that the humans had not been silent out of fear. They had been waiting for the parents to return. Empire analysts urgently attempted to map human movements. Predictions failed. Patrol routes became ambushes. Convoys disintegrated mid-transit. Outposts ceased responding. Attempts to trace the human command structure led nowhere. The humans fought without centralized orders, yet their strikes were coordinated beyond Imperial understanding. Intercepted transmissions, fragmented and encoded, reference a single recurring term, the blood debt. Empire High Command convened emergency councils. They ordered the immediate cessation of executions. But the humans had already vanished into deep space. Their response had begun. The retaliation was not spontaneous rebellion. It was calculated vengeance from minds honed for war. Alien mercenaries employed by the Empire began refusing human-related assignments. Smugglers and traders cut ties with Imperial supply lines, fearing association. The fear spread faster than the attacks. Stories of entire garrisons wiped out overnight, of weapons never seen before, of soldiers disappearing in their own barracks, circulated unchecked. Psychological warfare intensified. The humans began broadcasting short, chilling messages moments before each strike. Remember our daughters. The Empire scrambled to contain the chaos unfolding across its borders. Commanders ordered fleet repositioning, but they lacked understanding of the enemy they now faced. Human warships with unknown design profiles struck hard and vanished before any pursuit could organize. They moved with the precision of a unified machine, but left no traceable command structure. For the first time, the Empire faced an enemy it could not predict. Interrogations of captured humans yielded nothing. They offered no resistance, no information, no demands. They stared in silence, their eyes devoid of fear. The few analysts who reviewed those interrogations reported that the humans were not awaiting rescue. They were waiting for something else entirely. Data analysts revisited the files of the executed women, digging deeper into the restricted archives. Patterns emerged that were previously dismissed. Each of the executed women was connected to humans who had been categorized as lost, dead, or disappeared under extraordinary circumstances. Some had last been recorded during the wars that preceded the Empire's expansion. Others had no final entry in the archives at all, as if deliberately erased. They were the offspring of individuals who had vanished from human records over 30 years ago. Imperial records reference them in fragments. Engineers whose designs never reached the battlefield, soldiers who disappeared after impossible victories, scientists who walked away from civilization. Their names have been flagged by Imperial blacklists, but the files were locked under encryption too ancient to decipher. The first Empire fleet dispatched to intercept the unknown human warships did not return. 3 capital ships and 7 cruisers vanished in uncharted sectors. The only signal recovered was a brief, distorted message. "You have taken our daughters. We take your sky." The Empire's primary supply corridors came under systematic attack. Human vessels struck logistical convoys with precision that belied the technological gap. They disabled hyperlanes, severed communication nodes, and destroyed energy depots critical to frontier operations. These strikes collapsed the Empire's ability to resupply its outer sectors. Empire Command demanded explanations. How could these humans possess ships that outperformed known Imperial designs? How could their weapons bypass energy shields? Why did they know the Empire's fleet routes with such accuracy? The answers pointed back to the executed women's parents, individuals who had disappeared with technology projects the Empire had once feared. Recovered fragments of human transmissions indicated the use of pre-Empire encryption protocols, codes long thought obsolete. Yet the Empire could not break them. The humans had not just preserved ancient knowledge. They had evolved it in isolation. Entire sectors reported ghost fleets appearing without warning. Human ships emerged from deep space, striking with weapons that left no debris. Their targets were chosen with surgical precision. Command centers, intelligence hubs, supply depots. The humans avoided civilian populations. They offered no ultimatums, no dialogue, only silence and devastation. The psychological toll escalated. Empire soldiers reported seeing human ships that should not exist, designs from centuries-old war theories. Commander began to question their intelligence feeds, suspecting internal sabotage. Morale collapsed in frontier units. Desertions became rampant. Empire intelligence pieced together fragments from centuries-old human conflicts. References emerged to a cadre of human tacticians who were said to have developed doctrines specifically for asymmetric annihilation warfare. They were codenamed the Vanished Generation. Evidence suggested that these individuals had prepared contingency fleets and fallback arsenals far beyond known human space. They had retreated voluntarily, taking forbidden technologies with them. Their children, now executed by the Empire, had been a last link binding them to restraint. Empire High Command ordered an emergency council to reevaluate human threat classifications. It was too late. The humans struck at strategic shipyards deep within Imperial territory. These shipyards had been considered impenetrable, yet they fell within hours. Recovered sensor logs indicated that the human fleets used propulsion signatures unknown to the Empire. Analysts determined that the humans had mastered low detection travel vectors and gravitational masking techniques beyond the Empire's comprehension. They could appear anywhere. The humans began broadcasting messages seconds before each attack, chilling in their simplicity. "Remember our daughters." Imperial fleets attempted to adapt. Patrol routes changed hourly. Supply lines were rerouted through less efficient pathways. Yet the humans remained steps ahead, anticipating every strategic shift. It was as if they had mapped the Empire's entire logistical infrastructure in advance. Mercenary companies and private security fleets refused contracts involving human engagements. Entire planetary governors resigned, unwilling to shoulder responsibility for defenses that would not hold. Alien species allied with the Empire began severing diplomatic ties, fearing the fallout of human vengeance. Some offered silent assistance to human cells in exchange for safe passage. The humans did not acknowledge these gestures. They simply continued their campaign. Empire Command recognized a pattern. The attacks were not aimed at territorial gain. The humans were dismantling the Empire's ability to wage war. Every target they struck eroded the Empire's power projection. The humans were erasing the Empire's future. Interception of a human command relay revealed a chilling operational directive. This is not war. This is debt collection. Human fleets now operated openly in multiple sectors. They bore no flags, no national emblems. Their ships carried only the insignia of the blood debt, a crimson mark resembling a noose. Fear gripped the Empire's central systems as reports indicated the human fleets were moving inward. Attempts to broker ceasefire negotiations were ignored. The humans transmitted no responses to diplomatic channels. They had moved beyond diplomacy. Entire sectors began collapsing under human pressure. Imperial logistics ground to a halt. Shipyard production failed. The once invincible empire now struggled to defend its core worlds. The humans employed unconventional weapons. Nanite clouds that devoured infrastructure. Biochemical agents that selectively disabled power grids. EMP devices that shorted entire fleets before the first shot was fired. These were weapons the Empire had only theorized. The humans were not chasing glory. They were not seeking conquest. They were methodically dismantling the Empire that had hanged their daughters. Empire High Command issued an unprecedented order: full withdrawal from contested sectors. Planetary governors were advised to evacuate critical personnel and abandon military assets that could not be defended. But the humans pressed on. They pursued retreating fleets, intercepting them in hyperspace corridors, obliterating them before they could escape. No prisoners were taken. No ships were spared. The Empire's core systems descended into disorder. Communication hubs failed without enemy contact. Power grids collapsed under unexplained interference. Human fleets moved through defended space as if the laws of physics no longer applied to them. Imperial strategists could no longer predict their movements. Attempts to trace them ended in corrupted files, sensor ghosts, and vanished tracking stations. The final assembly of the Empire's remaining fleets, once a display of galactic dominance, now appeared as a desperate barrier. Commanders prepared for a fight. They understood they could not win. Messages from outlying sectors confirmed the total disintegration of Imperial power outside the core systems. The humans had reduced the Empire to a fragment of its former size, a crippled shell clinging to its capital worlds. Empire leadership transmitted open pleas for negotiation, surrender, and cessation of hostilities. The humans did not answer. No ambassadors arrived. No conditions were delivered. Only silence remained. Human fleets appeared simultaneously across multiple key sectors, bypassing defensive choke points with methods unknown to the Empire. The Empire's most advanced detection arrays recorded gravitational distortions moments before human ships materialized inside their defensive formations. Human ships emerged within weapons range, unannounced, immune to interception. When the Empire's fleets opened fire, their energy weapons failed to lock targets. Missiles veered off course, as if guided away. Human vessels advanced without responding fire, closing the distance as if daring the Empire to resist. When the humans did strike, it was with weapons the Empire's tactical archives could not classify. Entire cruisers simply vanished under impact from unknown munitions. One by one, Imperial Command ships went dark. Fleet formations disintegrated under coordinated human strikes. Attempted retreats ended in complete annihilation. Imperial ships disabled mid-flight plummeted into planetary orbits, their destruction visible from the surface. The humans destroyed with surgical efficiency, leaving no survivors, offering no chance to flee. Empire leadership initiated emergency evacuation protocols. High command abandoned their posts, fleeing to underground facilities. Human forces followed. Command centers buried beneath kilometers of reinforced alloy were breached with precision charges unknown to the Empire's best engineers. The humans pursued them through the last layers of defense, cutting through with weapons at disregarded structural density. As each layer of Imperial command collapsed, a growing number of alien species severed all remaining ties with the Empire. Some attempted to bargain for their own survival, but the humans offered no audience. The retaliation was not a war for territory. It was a fulfillment of a promise. Human broadcasts began to permeate every Imperial frequency, a single phrase delivered in countless languages. "You hanged our daughters." The message repeated, a declaration, a verdict, and a sentence all in one. No threats, no demands, only the memory of what the Empire had done. As the humans dismantled the last layers of Imperial infrastructure, they bypassed opportunities for conquest. They destroyed key technologies but left civilian habitats untouched. They ignored undefended systems. Their campaign focused solely on the arteries of Empire power, eradicating military capability, shattering communication, and severing supply lines until the Empire's structure collapsed entirely. Human ships began withdrawing as systematically as they had advanced. They left behind nothing but wreckage, craters where shipyards once stood, and a silent galaxy that no longer doubted their purpose. In the aftermath, scattered records of the Empire's final hours remained. The last High Command transmission captured an untraceable human voice delivering a final message. "We do not conquer. We do not rule. We remember." Across what remained of the Empire's territory, ghost fleets occasionally appeared in sensor readings, never attacking but always watching. Human transmissions continued to echo in the quiet vacuum, sometimes heard by traders, sometimes by isolated colonies, always repeating the same words. "Remember our daughters." Alien historians attempted to piece together the full sequence of the collapse. They chronicled the executions that triggered the retaliation. They documented the impossible technologies used by the humans. They interviewed the survivors, all of whom spoke of the same paralyzing fear. Not a battle, but a human's unrelenting purpose. The surviving fragment of the Empire abandoned their titles, dissolved their remaining authority, and retreated into obscurity. Former Imperial species rewrote their historical archives, erasing references to the public hangings that started the chain of events. But the memory endured in whispers, in half-remembered warnings, in phrases taught to children across 100 worlds. "Never hang their daughters." The phrase became a galactic proverb, a silent caution that echoed through generations. It crossed language barriers and cultural divides, standing as a shared understanding that some lines must never be crossed. Galactic powers that rose in the Empire's absence approached humanity with deference. Trade agreements were offered without condition. No fleets patrolled near human space. No species risked the possibility of waking the force that had dismantled the most powerful empire the galaxy had known. Humanity did not expand aggressively in the aftermath. They returned to their territories, rebuilt their colonies, and withdrew from the regions they had passed through like a storm. The humans left behind no occupation forces, no political demands, no treaties. They required nothing. Their silence continued. Alien scholars debated whether the retaliation was an orchestrated effort by a unified human government or the manifestation of ancient human war doctrines resurfacing in a time of need. They questioned whether the parents of the executed women had truly coordinated the campaign, or whether humanity itself had collectively remembered the debt and moved to settle it. Fragments of human records referred to the blood debt as a principle older than the species' history in space, a cultural tenet that transcended politics, nationality, and ideology. It was not a matter of governance. It was a matter of what humans would never allow to pass unanswered. The Empire's collapse became a case study in every major galactic academy, dissected by military strategists, sociologists, and historians, yet none could explain the full scope of the human retaliation. Every analysis reached the same impasse. The humans had waged a war that the Empire could neither predict nor prevent.